Welcome to This Day Live, the Sunday talk show, where we discuss political matters, both local and international, in a fair and balanced manner. I'm Rueben Abati, reaching you from Lagos. And with me in the studio today, we have Prisca, who's our expert on economic matters, and who is an executive of the Access Management Corporation of Nigeria. Prisca, good to see you again this week. And also here is Olaleye, deputy editor at This Day on Sunday, a noted political journalist. Wale, welcome back.
Good to see you again, sir.
Well, we go straight to the first issue of the day, which is the week that was. And we'll begin with Nigeria. Yeah, Wale, I know that you are always monitoring the political situation in Nigeria. What has happened in the last 1 week?
Well, it's been quite an interesting week, typically, and then it's just that a few events actually dominated the top this time. We started the week with the interesting, or rather cheering news of the supposed end of recession. I don't know if it's totally end, and then we also had the Minister of Women Affairs and Social Development, Senator Hassan, openly declaring support for former Vice President, and that actually changed the entire tenor of political discourse in the week. Of course, in the week also, we might be coming close to resolving the ASU federal government stalemate, and as well as the resident doctors. And also, we have reports of a killing of a Catholic priest in Owerri, while another was shot in Lagos. That was quite an unfortunate development. And then we're still battling with the Benue flood, amongst other things, in the week. Then internationally, America has moved from Hurricane Harvey now to Irma, and it's quite a very serious one. The whole of Florida is seeking serious help at this time. And then, of course, the major news from the continent is the Kenya's presidential election that was annulled the other week. And that, of course, gave a lot of meanings to democracy in this part of the world. And so that's put together, actually, summed up the week in question.
Well, I noticed that when you spoke about recession, you used the phrase supposedly. It looks like you are skeptical about the report by the National Bureau of Statistics that there has been, a growth of about 0.55%. But Prisca, do you share his skepticism?
Well, given the fact that in the last 5 quarters, the country has been in recession, and we are gradually inching out of that with a 0.55% growth, it doesn't look as optimistic as we expect it to be, especially given the fact that South Africa as well, who came out of recession about the same time as we have, and who had been in recession for 2 quarters, hit a 2.5% growth rate. So we do hope that as we hit the next 2 quarters, that number would grow, because it's still far below the population rate and also far below unemployment rate by about 2.5% and 5.5% respectively. Because to be able to match up with the unemployment rate, we need a minimum of 6% growth. So it's too early to celebrate, but directionally, it's a positive outlook.
But what exactly happened? I mean, a few years ago, Nigeria had the fastest growing economy in Africa with about 6% growth, which you just mentioned. I think at a point it even went as high as 7%.
Yes.
How did we manage to just lose all of that?
Well, in recent times, especially with the crisis in the Niger Delta, we've seen a huge decline in production rate. And looking at the numbers, the largest contributor to that is the stability we are enjoying in the Niger Delta. Because given the fact that there's less sabotage, gas is available for for the large corporations like Nestle and Guinness who would have depended on diesel, which is why diesel consumption has also dropped drastically. I mean, from 200, it's at about 160 and, in the current quarter. So we are hoping that with other sectors picking up, the growth rate would also increase, because unlike the South African economy, which is highly integrated and diversified, ours is more of a mono economy.
A monocultural economy. But you see, I usually measure these things not in terms of percentages, but in terms of the effect on the ordinary people. Yes. When you tell an ordinary person that, oh, there's been 0.55% growth, and it looks like,
can't you relate?
You know, economic voodooism. Yeah. But interestingly, you know, a lot of ordinary people seem to be excited. I read a report in which it was stated that to the ordinary man, there has indeed been some improvement. And the way the ordinary man is measuring it is in terms of the cost of food items.
Absolutely.
A bag of rice, I understand, is gone down from 20,000 to about 15,000. A bottle of palm oil from 500 naira to 400 naira.
Absolutely.
A bag of beans from 50,000 to 40,000 and all that. So, what do you think of the common man's view?
I don't know. I tend to disagree because even Dr.
You go to the market?
So I buy things from the market, yes.
Okay, that's interesting.
And even Dr. Yemi Kale, the Statistician General of the Federation, said recently that the service sector is still in the negative territories. In other words, you can't have those effects come up right now. So I do not really think the ordinary man on the street can actually relate with this growth as we speak. I do not think so.
I disagree with you. I actually will agree more with Doctor. The inflation in the agro sector has actually dropped drastically. I mean, we can see prices of yam, especially with the fact that we're going into the harvest season. Prices of yam is coming down. I mean, it was at about 1,000, 1,500. With new yam coming up, the price has come down. We also see the price of rice coming down. We see the price of beans, like you rightly said, tomatoes coming down, also impacted by the harvest season. We see things like gari. Gari has been relatively flat. You know, the decrease in that has not, I mean, but rice, really, the large contributor for rice is the fact that milling capacity has also improved. So yes, prices have gradually, it may not be as high as we would expect it to be, but it's been going down gradually. And if that trend continues, then the outlook for Q4 is
positive,
expected to be positive, absolutely.
Well, I mean, I see both of you are cautiously optimistic, but the politicians are excited. I mean, there have been reports of the politicians hailing the administration short of staging a party. And I've read commentaries saying, yes, this shows the president's ingenuity in being able to manage the economy. You think the politicians are being opportunistic, or they have a point?
Basically playing politics. Yeah, like Prisca just said, maybe there are slight indications that we can't celebrate, you know, but even the federal government said it would approach this growth cautiously. And then Dr. Yemi Kale said it is still very fragile. So I can't even see the need for celebration yet, for me.
For me, I would say that it's not just fragile, it's anemic. So if we are quick to begin to celebrate it at this stage, then we'll be sending the wrong signals. Fine, we need to be cautious in how this is managed, but if we continue the trend, then the outlook hopefully would improve. The growth rate will improve for the next 2 quarters, and things will begin to stabilize, especially given the fact that oil price has been relatively stable, and then other industries and sectors are also contributing positively.
I guess. You know, perhaps the improved performance of the naira against the dollar is probably also part of it. Because some importers, you know, have been quoted as saying, well, prices are also reducing because...
Also very insignificant.
But the expectation, of course, is that things should get better. Because for the average Nigerian, the expectation is that things should get better.
Maybe we'll keep
You
praying.
mentioned another point in the rundown that you did. This celebrated case of Senator Aisha Al-Hassan, the Minister of Women Affairs in Nigeria, who did something unusual.
A woman with courage.
And spoke up and said, look, my mentor politically is former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, and that in 2019, that's the person she would support, even if the president who has appointed her a minister decides to run. You say she's a woman of courage?
Yeah.
Well, some other politicians and even members of the cabinet, our colleagues, do not seem to be impressed.
Well, I think her courage is worth commending, to start with. The problem I have with her position is not following that through with quitting the cabinet. I don't think she should wait until she's shown the way out. She's made her point clear, and she's indicated where she stands currently. She adding that even if the president was going to run, she would still support the former vice president. I think it's a clear case of establishing my loyalty and where I stand. Come rain, come shine. And I think to consolidate that, on that, she should just quit the cabinet. Because like the governor of Ogun State said recently, she could be seen as working against the interests of the government if she continues to stay in there.
Okay, you hold your thoughts on this, because I'm sure that many Nigerians and even the international community will be interested in this unusual development in Nigeria in recent days. We'll take a break, and then we'll come back and take a further look at this particular matter.